Alright YouTubers, what's happening? We got another knife video today. The Benchmade Aileron 737. This was part of the pass-around group sent in by one of the actual pass-around members, Zach. Zach's Stuff is his channel. I'll put that in the description below where you can go check out his YouTube channel. And make sure you guys are checking out all those guys that are in the pass-around group. They may end up linking all of their channels. But the Benchmade Aileron, so interesting knife. When it first came out, I thought, what is with this stuff on the blade? And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Let's go over the basic specs though. Right when I did that, my furnace kicked on. As usual, we're just gonna kick through it, guys. Alright, so the blade length on this guy is 3.45 inches, blade thickness of 0.12. It's 8 inches open, just a hair over 8 inches. 4.58 inches closed, weight of 4.2 ounces. Thickness is 0.54 in the handle, and I wouldn't actually, that doesn't sound right. I would say it feels more like ½ inch, but oh man, no, spot on, 0.54. Okay, so it felt a little thinner to me. So there's your basic specs. S30V steel on this guy, and let's get a few other measurements. We got the blade's thickness. Let's measure the blade. Well, the blade's stock eye measuring at 1.19, and thinness behind the edge is not at all thin. Holy mackerel. 0.035. Oof. That is not good. Alright. That's really thick. That can't be right. I think the thickest Benchmade I've ever had. Yeah, 0.036 is what I'm getting behind the edge. So it's got a pretty thick edge. So it's designed as a tactical folder. And let me talk a little bit about that design first before we get too far into it. So, designed by Steve Tirani, who is a former CIA agent and trains with multiple agencies for self-defense techniques and things. And he's got this two-handed opening technique we'll talk about here in a second. That's why it has. So basically what this was designed for was it was uniquely tailored with input from experienced commercial and cargo pilots, military and commercial, uniquely tailored for this Tirani two-handed opening method. The Aileron is one of perfect folder for air or ground use. I'm sorry, the marking on this one's horrible. Yeah, so what's this all about? Well, it's to literally to open this knife with two hands, to grip the knife right there. And so to pull it out of your pocket and to do that action right there, that's exactly how you do it. I watched a video. Maybe I'll link it in the description below. I think it's straight up silly, but that's how he opened the knife. I don't see how that's any faster than just doing that, but, you know, or the Spidey flick, you know, or in this particular knife's case, this has no detent, essentially, so you can just wrist flick it open. It's got a very weak detent on this knife. Oh, now it's sticking a little bit better. It's kind of funny. So maybe it takes a little bit more wrist thick, but it definitely has a detent issue at this particular model. So it sometimes will just open up like that, and it's kind of dangerous. But I think that's just kind of a defect on this one, so we'll see. Alright, so let's talk about the biggest issue I think people are going to see with this knife is this grip stuff is going to cause friction when cutting. Now if you look at the grind, all the grind kind of comes up to about this high, and all that right there is the grip tape. So you're really not, I mean, unless you're using this full amount of your blade, it doesn't cause tons of friction. I was actually kind of surprised. Maybe a little bit, but not terribly noticeable. I did a lot of cardboard cutting tests, and I did not find it to be cause too much friction. But I definitely see why people think it would, and sure it does to an extent, but it's not terribly noticeable the way the knife's ground and stuff. But it's ground very thick, and it's designed as a tactical folder. The handle is pretty interesting, so we'll get into that when we talk about ergonomics. So let's talk about fit and finish. Well, obviously it has a detent issue, which, you know, it is what it is. The centering is actually really good from Benchmade, which isn't always what you get, and the action's pretty smooth. So decent fit and finish on this guy. Not the best ever, but not the worst either. Let's go ahead and, while I'm thinking about it, before I get too far past fit and finish, compare the size-wise to and a few other Benchmades. There's 940, which you can see it's bigger. There's the Smock, ultra popular knife right now for good reason. So it's about the same size as the smock as far as the handle is concerned. Hinder XM18, 3.5 inch. So it's a little bit smaller than those. So smaller knife than those. Designed as a, you know, somewhat of a self-defense tool. But really, honestly, like with the two-handed opening method and stuff, it just doesn't. I mean, honestly, what I would do is I would sometimes use the grippy stuff to open the knife one-handed. So the whole two-handed method thing is I don't understand it. Maybe I'll link the description below the video I saw on YouTube of him kind of demonstrating it for Benchmade and stuff, and to me it just still didn't make sense, but it is what it is. Aesthetics, how about aesthetics on this guy? It's not the best looking knife. Honestly, with the knife shut, the grip area kind of looks cool with the handle, but, you know, adds a little bit unique. Almost looks like it's like design or something, but it's actually, you know, intentionally there. So it's not the best looking Benchmade that I've seen, honestly. The action on it is pretty good. Like I said, the D10 is really weak. I mean, you can shake. See how it? Oh, you can see it. You can kind of shake the knife out like that and give it a little wrist. I mean, I'm thinking about this. I can't do that. Got my 80-15. I could have to shake that thing out forever. Same kind of wrist motion. Even my 940 stays in there, and that's another Benchmade. So action definitely has an issues there with this D10. Other than that, it's pretty smooth, and the opening hole does work really well. You can spotty flick it, you can slowly roll it, or you can use the thumb hole to open it like that. So different ways to deploy the knife. So the action's pretty good. What you kind of expect out of an Axis lock. Sliceability, really not there. I mean, it's very thick behind the edge. I didn't find it tear horribly, but, you know, I guess you could kind of put this down as like a harder use knife with that thick edge, and you can do some harder work with it. I don't know. I think it's really thick behind the edge, like surprisingly thick behind the edge. So that was, you know, not the best slicer at all. So, you know, this is part of a pass around, so I was very interested to check it out. And I thought, you know, I'm sure this would just be just fine as a regular EDC knife. When I first got it, I liked the handle. It was comfortable, and I somehow skipped over ergonomics, so let's talk about that. The handle's very comfortable. I like how it tapers kind of small to big. It works really well. Gives you a nice little finger choil, I guess, area. The G10 is very aggressive. Obviously, it's designed as a self-defense kind of knife, so it's going to, you're going to want that. But, you know, the way I looked at it as an EDC knife, the G10 was a little too aggressive, for sure. It does have a nice deep carry clip, which I do like, and it does carry pretty well in the pocket. Let's demonstrate that. Maybe. Up top. But it is a little bit wider in the pocket, I think because of this, just the way the blade's shaped and such. So it carries deeply, but it sits pretty far over because of how wide the knife is. I mean, you can get it about to there. So it kind of reminds me of Spyderco in a lot of ways because of that hole and such, making the blade a little bit wider and a little larger to carry, wider to carry, unlike the smock where it's quite a bit thinner. But so it does carry well, and the handle is very ergonomic. It did feel good. Doing a lot of cutting, didn't really notice any hot spots or anything like that. So, you know, as a hard to use EDC knife, you could definitely, you know, use this as that. In that philosophy of use. I don't want to say that because I sound like Mr. Unfancy, but so it carries well. Value on this guy. What do these guys run? I'm not even 100% sure what these run. The MSRP is $235, but that's the Benchmade price. The Amazon price. How about that? I'll link it down in the description. $199.75 is the Amazon price, which is typically the MAP pricing. Yeah, $199.75 is MAP on this, so it's about $200. S30V steel. I think there's better. I don't know. I would think there's better deals out there. If you want a big tactical use folder, look no further than a Cold Steel 8015 for $160. With better, about the same steel, but way beefier, and actually cuts a lot better too. And the awesome Scorpion lock. So I don't think the value is great as well. So is there an X factor on this knife? No, not really, unless you're looking for this particular two-handed opening method that you were a big believer in. This the training methods that he uses, and you want to have this knife for that. That's about the only reason I think that you would get it. As a typical EDC knife, there's just better choices in the price range. There's better Benchmades. I mean, get a 940 for heck's sakes if you want to get an EDC knife. So yeah, the Aileron is what it is. Not my favorite Benchmade that I've ever seen or used or had. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.